Hi students, I'm going to go through the process of solving example 1 with you. So remember that when we have an equation with variables on both sides, it's imperative that we simplify each side prior to moving anything to the left or right side. And the one thing that we're going to want to check is, do we have parentheses, and is it possible to use the distributive property? Basically, do we have multiplication over addition or subtraction? And I can see here that I do have. I can go ahead and distribute this 3. Oops, let me go ahead and use wrong color. I can go ahead and I can distribute that 3 to negative 8x, and then I can distribute the positive 3 to negative 3. It's imperative that everyone watches their signs. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to attack my signs first. So since I have a negative times a positive, I know that's going to be a negative. And here I have a positive times a negative, so then I know I'm going to have a negative somewhere right here in the middle. So now I do 3 times 8x, I know I'm going to get 24x. And since I already took care of the sign, I don't have to worry there. And 3 times 3 is 9. So now I have eliminated parentheses, and the side is pretty much simplified. So now I'm going to move on to the other side. And I see I do not have parentheses on this side. I cannot apply the distributive property, but I do have like terms. So I can see that I have this 4x and also this negative. Don't forget about that negative 8x. I guess I should make it have the same type of curly situation. And so I am going to combine like terms. So negative 8x and a positive 4x gives me a negative 4x. And then I'm just going to bring down the rest of the equation. And then I have 151. Okay. So now I'm going to do my check that the left side and the right side are both simplified. So they are simplified. Doesn't mean we're done. It just means that now we can start moving things over to the other side. So our objective here is we're going to want to use inverse operations to move all variables to one side and all constants to the other. And it doesn't matter the order. You're just going to try and choose the best strategy. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move this negative 4x over to the negative 24x. And the inverse operation for subtraction is addition. So I'm going to add 4x to both sides. And I'm just going to bring down 151. And then this gives me 0, so it cancels. Negative 4x plus 4x gives me a negative 20x. And then I'll bring down this negative 9. So we're almost there. So now I'm going to want to move this negative 9 over to the other side by using addition. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides. That's going to give me 160. Bring down that equal sign and bring down that negative 20x. And that gives us 0. Since a negative 9 plus positive 9 gives you 0, now I can see, okay, I do have variables on one side and constants on the other. And when I say variables, I say the variable and its coefficient, if possible. It has that. So now I'm going to want to move the negative 20 to the other side. So I'm going to have to identify what operation is occurring here. I can see that we have multiplication. So the opposite or inverse operation of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 20. Not just 20, but negative 20. That's a common error that students make. And I know anything divided by itself gives me 1. So here I am left with, I'm going to go ahead and simplify it on this side. So I have x equals 160 divided by negative 20. So now I know my answer is going to be a negative, correct? Because a positive divided by negative does give me a negative. And what's cool about this is I can automatically just remove those zeros, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. So my solution is x equals negative 8. I'm going to go ahead and go through the process for example 2. So recall that we're going to need to simplify each side before we can move all of our variables or constants to one of the other sides. So the very first thing I would like to do is I'm going to eliminate parentheses by using the distributive property. And so I will go ahead and I will start with this side. And I will distribute the negative 4 to the x, and then the negative 4 to the negative 3 through multiplication. So negative 4 times x gives me negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 3 gives me positive 12. So now that side has been simplified. So now I'm going to have to move on to the other side. And I notice that I also have parentheses here. So I'm going to distribute the 2 to the x and the 2 to the positive 1. That gives me a result of 2x plus 2. And now I'm just going to bring down this negative 5x. Now I need to check and see if this side has been simplified completely, and it looks like I have like terms. So I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms. And I can see that negative 5x and 2x, those are like terms. So I'm going to combine them. So negative 5x and positive 2x is going to give me negative 3x. I'm going to bring down this positive 2 equals, and then I'm just going to copy all of this, bring this all down as well. And that's going to give me negative 4x plus 12. Okay, so now the left and the right side are both simplified. So now my objective is to move all variables to one side and all constants to the other. So I'll start with my variables, and I have this negative 3x and I have this negative 4x. And sometimes students prefer to highlight them. So I know that this is possibly going to get moved and that's going to possibly get moved. Doesn't matter which. But you want to think of how you want to balance your equation. So I know if I subtract 2 from both sides, I'll get a 10. So since I'm going to be possibly moving that 2, it might be best for me to move this negative 4x to the other side. And so I'm going to do that by adding 4x to both sides. And negative 3 plus 4, that will give me positive 1x. I will bring down this positive 2 equals. This goes, that cancels. Bring down that positive 12. So now I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. Bring down that x. 1x and x are all the same because remember the coefficient tells you the quantity of the item that you have, and since there's only 1x there, it's not necessary to write, it's implied. And so x gives me 10. And that's the solution. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's try another example. I'm going to move on to example 3. Ooh, look at this one. This one looks like so much fun. So for example 3, let's check this out. Now I see here that there's going to be a lot more simplification here. There is a fraction, but it's a simple fraction if you can see, like 1/2. So you're just going to have half the terms that are inside. So what is half of 2x? Well, half of 2 is just 1. And what is 1/2 of negative 8? That's negative 4, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring down this 2x. And then I'll continue simplifying this side. I see that I have 1x and 2x, right? I'm combining my like terms. That gives me 3x. And then I'll bring down that negative 4. So this side, I've simplified. Let's move on to the other side. Ooh, so I see here, I don't have to use distributive property because there's no parentheses, but I do have like terms. So this negative 5x and this positive 6x, when I combine them, I'm going to get positive 1x. And since negative 148 doesn't have any other constant to combine with, I'm just going to bring that down. So now both sides have been simplified. And I'm just going to look at it for a second and look at maybe what my strategy is possibly going to be. So since I think I'm going to move this negative 4 over to that negative 148, so that's going to end up moving. So I think I'm going to subtract 1x from both sides. And if you subtracted 3x from both sides, you're still correct. You're not wrong. You're just going to be, you'll just end up having a difference in signs. So 3 minus 1, that's going to give me 2x. Bring down that 4. That eliminates. Bring down that negative 148. Now I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Bring down that 2x. That cancels. Equals negative 144. Now remember, I'm going to move the coefficient, the number in front of x, to the other side by using the inverse operation. And so the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. X equals, so I know my answer is going to be a negative because a negative divided by a positive is negative. So I'm going to get negative 72 for my answer. Great job.